Yeah, it's the individual athlete. It's a sports organization that's looking for emerging tech that they can bring in to accomplish a handful of things, whether it's generating more revenue, creating that fan engagement, streamlining processes, and or just saving money. How do you help people find, or with wayfinding and getting into the parking lot and getting into the stadium quicker? So that's all tied into the fan experience, to the food and beverage side, to being able to do mobile ordering and kind of not have to wait in line at a stand. One of the things that's different about this fund compared to some of the other sports tech funds is that it's more executive focused. So being able to get executives that work for teams, leagues, or agencies invested in the fund, opposed to some of the others that may be more athlete focused.
So Nate, what are you most excited about in the future of sports technology?
Most excited about what's coming here in Houston, and just leveraging people that have an interest in sports and entertainment and plugging in this sports and tech element and seeing what's possible here.
Welcome to another episode of Forging the Future, and today we have a remarkable guest, Nate Thompson, who is the managing partner at HTX Sports Tech. It's kind of sports I think I can do if it's tech related, but Nate is a key player in sports technology industry, providing strategic guidance to sports organizations, innovation, ecosystems, and startups. Nate is a key player in the sports technology industry, providing strategic guidance to sports organizations, innovation ecosystems, and startups. He also served as an innovation advisor at the Mayor's Office of Innovation in Houston and head of platform at The Collective. We're excited to dive into his journey, the cutting-edge technologies he's working with, and the upcoming summit he's hosting. Welcome, Nate.
Thanks for having me. Pleasure.
You know, you might be surprised, I'm not a sports guy, but I am a geek, so marrying the two together I think is pretty interesting.
It's the best way to do it.
Yeah.
It's the blend, best of both worlds.
Houston's known for space tech and med tech and prop tech, but sports tech keeps popping up on my radar, and I'm just trying to understand why.
Yeah.
So maybe tell us a little bit about what's going on here in Houston around sports tech and what you've been up to.
Sports in general is like a big carrot. Like, everybody pays attention to sports and entertainment. It's a draw for everybody. So being able to add this tech element into it kind of helps leverage some of the resources that are in the city. You have 7 professional sports teams in the Rockets, the Astros, Texans, Dynamo Dash, SaberCats, Houston Outlaws on the esports side. So you have Texas Medical Center on the health and wellness space. Bring those things together and find some opportunities to kind of create some technologies, whether they be products or services that help the athlete that's the casual runner, to your high school athlete, to your university athlete, to your professional.
Interesting. Yeah, I can see how, especially us being a med tech center, that makes a lot of sense. And we've had some startups come through that are specifically targeting, you know, like knees and elbows and stuff around even sports.
Yep.
Is that what a lot of the sports tech is about, or is it performance?
Yeah, it's kind of pretty broad. So I'll go into kind of the name behind HTX Sports Tech also. So obviously it's Houston, Texas, HTX, health and wellness, technology management, experiential. So the health and wellness, you mentioned the fan or injury prevention, recovery, performance measurements on the technology management side. So everything back in ticketing operation systems, analytics, data analytics on ticketing, retail concessions, other fan engagement platforms, and then the experiential, which leans more into the fan engagement opportunity. So loyalty programs, XR, VR, AR applications, mobile gaming. How do you kind of pull in your fans that may not be at the stadium, pull them in through the device that they have, pull them into the game, into that environment through that service?
Yeah, I hadn't thought about that as being a sports tech, but things like gamification and micro betting and some of the things that I've seen some startups try to target, like not just the final score, but what's going to happen on this play, right? You know, how far is he going to pass? Is he going to run? How far is the pass going to be? Is the pass going to complete? You know, things like that. So I think it's interesting, the innovation that's going on here. What
Yeah.
what is maybe something that's been innovative that you've seen recently?
Yeah, you just kind of leaned into the micro betting. So there's a company called InVenue. So Kelly Pratt, she's here in Houston. They're headquartered out of Dallas, but it's micro bets on what is this pitch going to be, who's going to win this NASCAR lap between me and you, who's going to be the first team to score 15 points in an NBA matchup. So they have a partnership also with Major League Baseball and Apple TV. They've gotten into the NASCAR space. They were with the NBA. There's opportunities to pull in fans, that the 20,000 fans that fit in Toyota Center, that now can engage and stay engaged throughout the entirety of that event. So it's now just looking at the outcome of am I going to score 30 points higher or lower? Are we going to win by 7 points? Are the Rockets going to score the first 15 points against the Spurs, or if it's going to be who's going to win this lap and kind of come out on top in this race to keep people engaged throughout the entirety of the event, not just the outcome of the event.
Interesting. Yeah, one of the startups in our studio, Synergy 7, they've created something they're calling the J Sleeve.
Yeah.
And so, you familiar with those guys?
Yeah.
And then trying to basically get those free throws down.
Yeah,
right?
yeah,
You know?
yeah. So that's that human performance piece of it. Trying to find ways to do some coaching. If you don't have access to a coach or a trainer, be able to use that software or that hardware to be able to measure and monitor your movement repetitively and tell you where to correct and kind of hopefully improve your jump shot.
Mm-hmm. I've also seen some things around devices and wearables for the athletes that then can be used for the coaches.
Yeah.
Like, you know, like where players are moving, what they're doing, things like that. Is some of that being worked on in Houston? Or,
Not as much in Houston. Well, I was just in Dallas with University of North Texas. They had some startups from the Netherlands in town. One of the companies is on that tracking on the soccer side specifically. So being able to track movement, identify patterns on the offensive and defensive side. And then within that movement of people, tie that into their energy levels. And then that goes into nutrition and diet. So then being able to track how fast they move, where they move, are they in the right places to make the best play, and then adjusting kind of their strategy from there.
So sports teams can be interested in the technology.
Yeah.
Venues might be interested in different types of technology.
So it's the gamut.
Athletes, of course, interested in increasing their performance, right?
It's the individual athlete. It's a sports organization that's looking for emerging tech that they can bring in to accomplish a handful of things, whether it's generating more revenue, creating that fan engagement, streamlining processes, and or just saving money. Those are things that they can leverage. For the venue, it's tied to that fan experience. How do you help people find, or with wayfinding and getting into the parking lot and getting into the stadium quicker? So you have the Astros and like Cleveland Browns that are using facial recognition for entry into the stadium to kind of speed up that process. So you're not waiting out, especially in this heat, to be able to get into the stadium and watch the game. So that's all tied into the fan experience, to the food and beverage side, to being able to do mobile ordering and kind of not have to wait in line at a stand.
Yeah, I've seen that things have sped up a little bit more getting in. I think they still need to work. Someone needs to work on the getting out because, getting out, and especially if Ubering to the game is a great idea.
Right.
You get dropped off, but getting out in an Uber is nearly impossible.
Yeah.
Right? Because there's just so many, all of a sudden 50,000 people need to get in an Uber, and all of a sudden it's an hour-long wait, right? I don't know what they're going to do about that. But maybe when Tesla gets their self-driving stuff set up, they'll just get the cars just come by and pick everybody up.
Just hop in. Yeah. And then depending on what your market, having access to any like public transportation helps, and any shuttles or the Metro Rails here, like being able to use those services can help depending on where you are.
Interesting. All right, so Nate, you have had an impressive career related to sports. Kind of tell us a little bit about how you got into this.
Yeah, started at the University of Cincinnati. The reason I went to Cincinnati was for their engineering program. Civil engineering was my focus my first year and a half, and then I shortly changed my major after being in some of those physics and chemistry classes. But the curiosity of like how things work, why things work, and being able to apply that in a sports space piqued my interest. So I moved to the College of Business. They didn't have a sports marketing or sport management program, so I was able to create that as a minor, but started working with the athletic department. So all the Olympic sports, the volleyballs, baseball, soccer, and also all the major sports. So on the ticket operation side and with the donor team of more business operations. How does all the donor and alumni contributions and sponsorship lead to season ticket sales, and how does that support the growth of that university? But then also, how does that university operate? At the time, they were using a system called Paciolan, which is a Ticketmaster ticketing system. So learning the back end of how that works, being able to create the venues, create the schedule, process the orders. That was the start on the technology side of that business operation. From there, I moved to St. Thomas University in Miami. So they have an MBA program. They're very focused on the experience side. So through their alumni, I was able to get an internship with a company called Complete Ticket Solutions. The guy that created that company was the former director of ticket operations for the Florida Marlins. So then I was able to see somebody that left the professional sports organization, created his own business, leveraged the relationships and experience and expertise to create his own thing. So then we worked any sports event, music festival, art festival in South Florida, and then also nationwide, being able to be a part of those events. So we would do everything as an outsourced box office company. So we would help build the event and ticketing system. We would set up the website. We would handle customer service on the phone and email. We would do the hardware, so setting up the scanners, creating the barcodes, staffing the events, doing the financial reports to close it out, and then hand it off to the organizer. So then essentially they could bring us in as their box office ticket operations staff, or that may be a small operation. They can staff up and level up when they need it.
Kind of an event in a box.
Yeah, basically, essentially.
Full service.
Yeah. So then in South Florida, we had the Baltimore Orioles spring training facility, Orange Bowl committee. My first year there was really cool because Cincinnati played Virginia in the Orange Bowl, Sunfest Music Festival, beach volleyball tournaments, Florida International, Florida Atlantic, University of Miami, handling all their ticket operations. And then the connection there with the Orioles and spring training facility, so managing that for 2 years in Fort Lauderdale, moved to Baltimore to work with the Orioles part-time in their ticket operations staff, moved back to Cleveland, where I'm originally from, worked with the Cleveland Guardians as their manager of ticket operations. And then that kind of created a whole big opportunity for me to get more involved in the organization as they were looking to make a big change and changing their ticketing systems from Ticketmaster to a company called Tickets.com and pushing into digital ticketing. So getting away from the paper tickets and the little box tickets that you usually were used to having, especially in baseball, and then being able to use your smartphone to get into a stadium. They made that move for a number of reasons, which helped the organization on the analytics side, knowing who's coming to game, reducing fraud, being able to transfer tickets more easily, and then build out this larger tech ecosystem with Baseball Advanced Media, also called BAMTech, that every team uses the same application. So you just click, I'm in Atlanta, so I want to go into the Braves game. So it's a white label application that looks like you're there for the Braves only. If you're in Miami, it's the Marlins. If you're in Cleveland, it's the Guardians. So being able to build that out with them is one of the first 4 teams to roll that out in 2012. So Cleveland Guardians were one of the first 4 teams to move from Ticketmaster to Tickets.com to roll out the MLB Ballpark application. So that helped with reducing fraud. So at the box office, we had, if you had a PDF sheet of paper, you can print that as many times as you want and hand it out to as many potential fans coming to the stadium. First one to scan in gets in. The other 29 people that also bought that have a problem that we have to solve at the box office. So we wanted to reduce that. We're able to capture who's buying tickets, where they're buying tickets from, what device they're using, who they're transferring tickets to, and then being able to create accounts once they transfer the tickets. So now we have, once I do transfer my ticket to you, then now you have to create an account. You're in the system. We can use that for retargeting on email campaigns when the next time the Houston Astros go to Cleveland. So being able to help our sales and service team. On the emerging tech side within that, opened up a lot of opportunities on the reporting side of it. So being able to get those insights on who's purchasing, where they're purchasing, what they're purchasing, what gate they scan into, being able to share that with our analytics team. So we were one of the first teams that also had different fellows. So we brought in university graduates that were focused on retail, analytics, finance, and fan engagement. So being able to provide access to them with all these data and insights on how we're performing and for them to create a strategy around those insights.
So this was the Cleveland Guardians?
Yeah, this is in Cleveland.
Why do you think that they were so forward on the technology compared to some of the other teams?
Yeah, I think they had to be. At that point, the team wasn't doing as well on the field, so they had to find opportunities to not devalue their tickets or their product as much and find other ways to kind of capture, this is our market, this is our audience or potential audience. We need to find better ways to engage them and get them into the stadium. When I first got there, they were doing a bunch of discounts through different banks or consumer packaged goods companies and offering anything just to come into the stadium. And we were kind of discounting ourselves a little too much and then competing with the Cavaliers were doing really well at the time. The Browns, which is an NFL team, it's the Browns in the NFL in Cleveland. It's always going to do well, regardless of the performance on the field. So we had to find a better way to compete.
So they were using innovation as a way to solve that
Yep.
problem.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Yep.
But you've also worked with the Houston Astros, right? And that's no small feat. I mean, how did that shape your approach to leveraging technology?
Yeah. From that project in Cleveland, the Astros wanted to do the exact same thing. Move into that digital ticketing space. We had just finished the project in, I want to say, March of that year. So then I interviewed for that opportunity in April, and I was down here by May, starting on that project to move from Ticketmaster to Tickets.com, build out the loyalty program, and then find other ways that we can kind of amplify and enhance that ballpark application. So they were just kind of next in the tier of Major League Baseball of teams that wanted to move into that direction. So then I was able to get down here and make that the next project. It was pretty cool because we were in the same division for Major League Baseball, so everybody that I just worked with at Major League Baseball and Tickets.com were the exact same group. So then it was kind of rinse and repeat of like, let's run it back and do the exact same thing, and taking into account some of the pricing differences of the organization, but strategically it was pretty much the same thing. So we were able to execute that really quick.
Yeah, I think the Astros have always been an adopter of technology.
Yeah.
And so, I mean, they were one of the first to gamify the game, right?
Yep.
You know, there's even books around it,
Yeah.
you know. So,
Yep.
So it makes sense that they would want to do that.
Yeah.
Like,
Culturally,
go ahead.
not to cut you off, but yeah, culturally for those organizations on the business side, the Guardians were more advanced on bringing in tech and being innovative in that space. And then the Astros, like, to your point, were very much innovative on the player development side. So being able to create profiles for the Altuves and Bregmans and what was here, Springer, to be able to have those guys in their farm system, they were way ahead of innovation and creativity on the tech side and kind of scouting those players to be able to have them in place for that World Series run over the last couple of years.
Right. Well, I've seen the difference. I mean, I don't go to a tremendous amount of games, but when I do go now, it's like, oh, wow, you come in fast, you get your tickets, you have to have the MLB app and all that. How many teams have adopted it now?
Yeah, all teams use it now,
Yeah.
pretty heavily, yeah, very heavily.
How does that work? Because it was the teams that were doing it, but then you have Major League Baseball, but then now they want to apply it to the other teams. And so who actually owns the solution? Was it MLB or what?
Yeah, so it's an MLB solution. So the company you referenced, BAMTech, so that's Baseball Advanced Media Technology. They developed the application. And then Ticketmaster.com or Tickets.com was a separate company that got acquired by BAMTech and rolled up under that umbrella. So BAMTech also has a partnership with, or got acquired by Disney recently. So anytime you watch Hulu or Disney Plus, you'll see that partnership with ESPN and ABC, but they'll also do the content for WWE, NHL, and MLB are their main partners.
So we'll be seeing this everywhere.
Yeah, yeah. And so then you think about it, like being able to have one application that pulls in ticketing data from all 30 teams in Major League Baseball, that all funnels up into one database. You can do a lot with that information and be able to create campaigns and target and get real creative with how you engage your fans.
So this brought you to Houston,
Yep.
and then while you've been here, you've been involved in sports tech accelerators like Div Inc. and now HTX, right? HTX Sports Tech. So maybe tell me a little bit about the background of the sports tech ecosystem here.
Yeah, so I'll go transition from when I left the Astros in 2019, joined the Mayor's Office of Innovation as their innovation advisor, but at the same time started HTX Sports Tech. The idea there being not wanting to completely leave the sports industry, but be able to create something that helps this ecosystem build and grow and scale to what it potentially could be. So we mentioned before, you have the sports organizations, the universities, Texas Medical Center, all the grassroots sports efforts that are across Texas. there wasn't something that was collectively and cohesively bringing those things together and kind of taking advantage of those resources. So then we wanted HTX to be that glue and be that bridge between each of those parties. The investment scene was here, the sports organizations that were here, the athletes are here. So then let's find a way to create this community and build that up.
Have you found a lot of people focused on the sports-related startups, or is it you have to recruit them from outside the city to come here? Or?
It's starting to be more. Initially, it was starting to recruit. Houston wasn't looked at as the sports tech scene. Ideally, or initially, it was the New Yorks, the LAs that kind of got most of the accolades. You had Orlando with Lead Sports with their accelerator program, and then Stadia Ventures in St. Louis had an accelerator program. Nothing was available here in Houston. So you mentioned Div Inc. So I've joined them in 2022 as their entrepreneur in residence, having that experience with the Astros, knowing that they wanted to create a sports tech accelerator and being able to support that and bring in leadership to be mentors and then help those founders that are working with sports tech products, even if they're not here in Houston, be able to share those resources and kind of support those founders that are either minority or women-led in the sports tech space.
Okay, so is Div Inc. specifically around women and minority-led startups for sports?
Yeah, so not just sports. So women and minority-led founders, they moved here from Austin in 2021, so they have a focus on social impact, clean energy, women in tech, and then sports was one of the tentpole accelerators that they wanted to build around.
Okay, they were more broad.
Yeah.
Div Inc. isn't specifically
Right.
sports. That's right.
Yeah.
I remember that now.
Yep.
But your accelerator is.
Yeah.
So if I'm a startup and I've got some idea around sports, I mean, do I apply, and how many people do you actually take into your accelerator? How does your model work?
Yeah, so there's an application. It's open. So we run the cohort once a year. It's 12 weeks hybrid, so a couple weeks in person, a couple weeks remote, knowing that people are kind of all over the country. Applications this year, I think we're over 200. We only take in 10 companies for the cohort. So they get access to all the mentorship, all the resources that come from legal, from financial, from other executives that are in the industry that may have worked with a startup before and or researching their emerging tech that they can bring into their organization on the back end. So they get access to kind of a really great network of executives across the landscape.
So top 5% basically of the 200 that apply. 12-week program, some in person, some virtual,
Yep.
and then so they get the mentoring. Is there an investment, or is there any other component?
Yeah, no, so it's all investment in the people. There's no equity that gets taken from Div Inc.
Okay.
It's all resources, help with building, cash infusion to help and build your product, hire people, relationships across the network. Sports industry is very relationship heavy. They're big organizations or big brands, but small organizations. So being able to leverage those relationships and get connected comes at a premium, and be able to share that with them is super helpful. But there is no equity taken from that investment of resources.
So the HTX Sports Tech Accelerator operates within Div Inc.?
So we're just a program manager, or
I see.
part of the program. So we help support. So we help recruit the startups that should be a part of the program. We help identify the mentors, and we help develop the curriculum with Div Inc.
Okay, interesting. And what time of year do you do the 12 weeks?
Yeah, so typically every spring.
Every spring, okay.
Yeah, so it's kind of the time when baseball's starting up. Well, baseball and soccer are starting up. Football's out of season. It's a good time for the executives to be involved. Where summertime, they're going to be taking their vacations if they're out of season. And then fall, when basketball and football are starting up, is not the ideal time to run a sports accelerator program.
Mm-hmm. And so how many of these cohorts have you done so far?
So this is the second cohort happening now with Div Inc.
Okay. So let's talk a little bit about the upcoming HTX Sports Summit that's coming up in July. What can attendees expect from this event?
Yeah, so that's a combination or collective of executives, investors, founders, and students that'll congregate at Ford Field in Detroit. The idea of being there to have those conversations around innovation across sustainability, fan engagement, investment, equity, sports betting, and then gaming. Kind of being able to bring those groups of people that traditionally have disparate conferences or summits or conversations, bring them all together and have that collectively, and be able to host it at a professional sporting venue. So we take it to multiple cities. So last year it was in Nashville at Nissan Stadium, home of the Tennessee Titans. This year will be in Detroit at Ford Field, and then identifying where we're going to host it next year. But being able to go into that environment or those cities, leverage their ecosystem, so have conversations around, for Detroit, building a sports tech ecosystem or building the tech ecosystem in Detroit. They have Detroit Venture Partners, which is Dan Gilbert's venture fund, the owner of the Cleveland Cavaliers. He has Rocket Mortgage. They have an organization called TechTown Detroit. What does it look like combining the efforts of the academics, so Michigan, Michigan State, Wayne State, pairing that with an accelerator program at TechTown Detroit, and then also pairing that with investment in the venture community in Detroit, and being able to create an environment that supports and helps scale the opportunities for the founders in that space, and being able to do it in an intimate space. The point of the summit is to get those people together, but have 100 to 125 people, so you get a chance to develop a connection and network and talk with the people that are there over the course of those 2 days.
And is it mostly local to Detroit, or people fly in for this?
Yeah, so it's a little bit of everybody from everywhere. Regionally, the focus was getting people that are geographically close, so the Chicagos, Cleveland, Toronto, Indianapolis, especially Indianapolis, since they're building their sports tech ecosystem, getting those people involved in it. But there's also people coming from Orlando, Atlanta, and LA that'll be there.
Interesting.
So we're doing that in person, and then we're also offering a virtual option. So even if people can't be there or they're international, they'll be able to take part in the conversation live.
So throughout your career, you've really worked with numerous high-impact professional teams. And maybe what are some of the tips that you think that aspiring sports tech entrepreneurs and innovators should keep in mind when they're building these startups?
Yeah. Number one is figuring out if the problem is a real problem for the organization. It may be something that you have an interest in, but if it's not something they're looking to solve, they're probably going to push it to the back of the list. And then finding the right people. So doing the research and identifying within the organization who's responsible for innovation. It may be the ticket operations person, it may be the marketing team. If it's something that's sales related, identifying or knowing that the marketing team is responsible for a part of that component, and just kind of knowing where to address the product or service or solution you're offering is the main thing.
Make sure it's actually a pain point.
Yep.
And make sure who it is that is having the pain.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
I think that makes a lot of sense.
Yeah. And then also, I guess to that point, even if the opportunities, for example, if it's not with Major League Baseball, there's 140 minor league baseball teams that have Major League affiliates, so find an opportunity to pilot and work with their minor league affiliates. So it could be Corpus, it could be Sugar Land. And if it works there, they're going to share the word and pass the word up to the Major League organization and show the benefit and value add of your solution.
Are they open to that kind of innovation in the minors? I mean, is that a good way and a good path to kind of make it up to the big leagues?
Yeah, basically following the same model of going single A, double A, triple A, kind of working your way up is another great opportunity.
Because do those teams have the money to sponsor something like that, or or is it just being able to trial it?
Yeah, it's probably more so the trial and pilots, being able to do a proof of concept showing this works in an environment that's could be replicated on a larger scale.
And that there's an ROI.
Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
Makes sense. So Nate, what are you most excited about in the future of sports technology?
Yeah, what's most excited about what's coming here in Houston, whether it's through the collective and the investment fund, building out this ecosystem, seeing Rice University has their sports performance center, Texas Medical Center, seeing their involvement or opportunities for involvement with some of the Rockets and Astros and Texans with their partnerships. And then the universities, University of Houston and Rice University having their entrepreneurship programs and just leveraging people that have an interest in sports and entertainment and pulling and plugging in this sports and tech element and seeing what's possible here.
It does seem like the universities are understanding the potential. I think Rice just gave $800,000 to Div Inc.
Right.
Specifically for sports,
Yep.
right? Is that going toward what you're doing in the accelerator?
Yeah, so that was earmarked for the Sports Tech Accelerator over the next 3 years.
Oh, wow. Well, congratulations.
Yes, thanks.
You're going to be busy for a little while.
Yeah, which is good. It's great. And then you also have like the grassroots. So we've had conversations with, so you have Legacy School of Sports Sciences, Houston Community College is looking at an esports program for their continuing studies. So there's other opportunities to either if it's not a full-blown 4-year program, there are certificate programs that the universities or academic institutions are looking to include, to make sure like the future of sports will be kind of more engaged, more expansive, and kind of knowing what the opportunities are in that space.
Well, I'm looking forward to see what comes out of it. I don't know if any of it will help me be a better basketball player or not, but
Okay.
So tell me a little bit about the collective and the fund.
Yeah. So to elevate the Houston sports tech ecosystem, wanted to have an opportunity to build and support an investment fund called The Collective. The Collective is an investment fund on Series A through Series C sports tech startups, professional franchises, and leagues. But also, one of the things that's different about this fund compared to some of the other sports tech funds is that it's more executive focused. So being able to get executives that work for teams, leagues, or agencies invested in the fund, opposed to some of the others that may be more athlete focused. They have a ton of financial capital, but with the executives, they also bring some social capital. So they'll have knowledge of this product or service will work well with my organization or with this league, and then be able to share those social resources to be able to help with growth across the Major League Baseball, the National Women's Soccer League team, the WNBA, and help with integration of that technology within those leagues, and then be able to provide advice to those founders of this is a solution, or we needed this solution to do X, Y, Z, but it's kind of more over here. So be able to help tailor and advise them on where they can pivot and restructure to make it more valuable for the organization.
That sounds great.
Yeah. It'd be a game changer.
Game changer. I love it. Well, Nate, thanks for coming on, and thanks for everything you're doing to advance the state of sports technology here in Houston.
Yeah.
So, speaking of capital, I have some Benjamin socks for you. Maybe those will come in handy. Congrats on the recent investment from Rice on DeVink and what you're doing in the collective. So thanks for coming on the show.
Yeah, thanks. It was a pleasure.
Mm-hmm.